This play is sponsored by the California Civil Liberties Public Education Program, a state-funded grant project of the California State Library.
This is LA TheatreWorks' production of Seven by Paula Cizmar, Catherine Filloux, Gail Kriegel, Carol K. Mack, Ruth Margraff, Annet Deavere Smith, and Susan Yankowitz.
The war in Vietnam. We never thought it would come to Cambodia. We were listening to the Beatles, and then it came. My mother and father put me on a plane to France. I left the family. I was 18, and I was so desperate. Like, this river is bending, but which rock do I hang on to? There was no rock, and it was going very fast. I never went back. From an innocent teenager to a refugee, hopeless and an orphan.
If you start from 1980 in Afghanistan, where I was born, I was there until the age of 9. We had everything. But because my father was a doctor, we were in danger. He tried to help too many women and children crowding into our house under Russian rocket fire, until the day there came a hole into our living room. We had to flee Kabul and flee the Russians, and then we had to flee the Taliban in 1993. We panicked by the thousands, pushing to escape, no transportation, all the roads were closed or blown up. We saw some people drenched in blood, not from their own wounds, but from walking over the bodies of the dead. We could only crouch down in the sewers until there was ceasefire. How could I have known that my family would live in Pakistani refugee camps for 15 years? The best years of my youth.
My husband and I are on our first vacation in years in Finland. We go mountain skiing. And he feels tired. He says, I'll go and take a nap. And suddenly I realize his nap is getting too long. When I find him, he is still alive. But in the emergency room, they are not able to save him. Heart attack. He is 37. I am 33. He was the only one at the time who was understanding and supporting my mission. I am alone. I wonder, do I have the strength to do this work?
The city of Derry is on this hill, surrounded by walls with cannons overlooking the town square. And at the bottom of the hill was the collection of streets known as the Bogside. Long ago, it would have been for the very poor people, Catholics, coming in from rural areas, the poorest of the poor. Families lived in one room, the damp coming down the walls. I remember being told, looking down at the Bogside from the hill of Magee, you don't go down there. And now I'm married to a Catholic from down there. It was the summer of '68 when I met him. I went to London. I walk into this bar and there's this guy with a Derry accent selling drinks. I buy a drink and I'm still married to him. He was much more politically aware. Listening to him talk about the North, I began to glimpse this other, darker world. We hitched to Portugal. On TV at the youth hostel, we saw the first huge civil rights demonstration in Derry. I saw my husband's face go white. People were beaten off the streets. We hitched straight back home. I was in the same physical landscape, but I'd crossed over into another country.
Some men of the Mastoi tribe, they come to our home and say that my 12-year-old brother, Shakur, has committed zina with a girl from their clan and will go to jail. This crime they put on Shakur means rape or sex before marriage and is punishable by death. My family is sure that the accusation is false, and later we find out that we are right. It is my little brother who has been raped, and by the same men who are laying blame on him. But what can we do? The Mastoi are a higher caste than we are. They are landowners. So whatever they say is law. The men of Jirga, our village council, meet to discuss the situation and decide that I, Mukhtar, must ask forgiveness for my brother. And if this will free him, I am happy to do it. It is twilight when I began walking toward the farm of the Mastoi, holding my prayer book to my breast. My father and my uncle go with me. We enter their compound. With its high walls, the clan chief, Faiz Muhammad, and 4 other men are standing there with rifles, and behind them are many more men of their tribe. I lay down my shawl as a sign of submission. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the universe, the compassionate King of the day of reckoning. Thee only do worship, and of thee do we only ask for help. Guide us onto the right path. And then I look to Faiz and I say, if my brother has offended you, I beg pardon for his action, and I beseech you, please, set him free. And he looks at me with his wild eyes, and now I understand why. He will not forgive our family. He wants only to humiliate someone. And as always, that person will be a woman. But never did I imagine what happens next.
Well, I'd gotten a message early that morning that something had happened in Nigeria, and I thought it had to do with my dad. My older brother was in DC, so we all congregated at his home, waiting for word. Then I got a call from my sister Ayo. She asked, have you heard anything? I didn't know what she meant. Then she told me, Hafsat, your mom is dead.
4 men pull me by my hair and arms, and they drag me into a windowless room. I am thrown onto a dirt floor, a stable. And the only animals there, the only brutes, are these men. I scream for them to release me, but one man shows me his gun, and the others hold me down. For more than 1 hour, I was raped by these men. Men with shotguns forced my father and my uncle to wait outside. I can still see them, standing near the door helplessly, while the men took turns, one after another. Day and night, I tell you, night and day, every girl walks in terror of what happened to me. By the time we are 8, we know that a man can grab us wherever he pleases, take us to some dark place and push us down. He break into our bodies. He destroy our childhood and our future. Inside our homes, we feel safe. But when we go out, the fear takes hold of us. Day and night, night and day. It is like a vulture, flying just above our heads while we walk, or we work, or we play. And when it happens, it is beyond any nightmare.
My mother wasn't in an accident. She'd just been assassinated. She was driving to a meeting with the Canadian ambassador because of the work enrolling our allies for the democratic movement. This was in '96. My father was still in jail. And my mom had become the voice of the movement. She was driving in the streets when the car that had been tailing her, she was with soldiers. They overtook, shot her driver, and then shot her in the head. Point her, yeah. But I don't know that she knew what was happening because it happened so quickly. You know, she probably would have been thinking that the noise was a flat tire or something, and then they killed her.
When they are finished with me, I am thrown outside. My clothes are torn. I am nearly naked. I lie on the ground alone with my shame. My uncle and my father, they help me to my feet, and I walk past hundreds of townspeople. No one says a word to me as I go by. They all lower their eyes, or they stare at me with disgust. Now I am unclean and dishonored in the eyes of the tribal elders, my family, and my villagers. In that 1 hour on the stable floor, my life had been destroyed.
On the final day of the 90-mile Burn Tullet March, just outside Derry on a narrow road, there is an ambush. 100 men come down the hills on the right hand, holding clubs with nails in them. Others come up from the riverside on the left, and the police block us front and back to allow them to come at us. People start running, screaming. Now I'm in the front, but I mean, all you could do was keep walking, you know. And then, just as we come into Derry on a small, narrow street, stones are lobbed down on us, and the police block the street so we have nowhere to run. I try to get into the doorway of a shop, and of course it's locked, and I'm screaming as blood runs down my face. But the shop assistants are just standing inside, and they're laughing. And they're people from my background, you know. I mean, you'd have to dehumanize any group of people to demean them in that way. Now, I experience from the inside this paralyzing sense of powerlessness that comes from humiliation. I'm hit by a couple of men wielding heavy branches like clubs. When I go home, my neck and shoulders are badly bruised. My family was very distressed. But then comes the classic remark.
If you hadn't been there, it wouldn't have happened.
I was suddenly an outsider in my family. I crossed a line. That march changed the shape of the rest of my life.
After 9 years of exile, I took the first chance to return to Asia in 1981 with the International Rescue Committee to work in the Thai-Cambodian camps. With my team, I traveled into the jungles to bring supplies of food and clothing. We reach a refugee camp on top of a mountain, still run by the Khmer Rouge. The refugees are told to come outside the camp walls to collect the supplies we brought them. They are not allowed to speak. They march out in line, dressed in the black pajamas the Khmer Rouge insists they wear. Just seeing the Khmer Rouge soldiers in their uniforms brings back the war. My parents, friends, all gone. I never said goodbye. It is hard for me to keep quiet. I want to free these refugees. I now have a raging struggle to continue working in Cambodia, helping its people recover. I know from this moment on, my life is going to change.
For the next few days, I lock myself in my room. My mother brings me food, but no one speaks to me about what happened, and I speak to no one. In my country, women do not talk about such degrading things. I knew about 3 other rapes that had taken place before mine. One woman complained to the police, but they dismissed her case. Another woman went home and never mentioned it. And the third, she killed herself. She swallowed a bottle of pesticide and she died right there. Is this what I should do? I ask myself. In Pakistan, staying alive is seen as more cowardly and shameful than the rape itself. But in my heart, I do not believe that my family wants me to die, especially my mother. I can see it in her eyes. I can feel it in her touch that my pain is hers, that she suffers with me and she wants me to go on living. But if I don't commit suicide, then what will I do with my life?
All the time in the refugee camp, I dreamed to go to school to be a doctor like my father. But we couldn't go outside the tent, or they might kidnap us or sell us to the warlords. We saw the windows of the school shut out and shut down. Finally, I am so happy when I hold my first book in a refugee school. It is coming to me from the University of Nebraska. Answer these questions in your notebooks. If one mujahideen kills 4 Russians, how many mujahideen wake up, pray, and then go fight and kill the Russians? What do you think about the Russians drone airplane bombing on your house? Many $1 million spent to bring the messages of violence into refugee schools. There's not a lesson. Oh, what is a mother? What is a brother? My first school is the propaganda to become a warrior.
We got over 600 million from the West to repair the country of Cambodia. But no matter how much you bring, you cannot restore the soul. The war is never over. It's like you put acid on a person. The scars will always be there. You can build roads, you can demine rice fields, but you cannot reconstruct the face. How can you put back together a family that has been destroyed?
We need to start from scratch. The younger generation. And I say education, yes. You can build a building very easy. But it is better first to build the minds and then the building, so that the building should be safe in the minds.
When I started my work and would speak to the police, they would say, "Oh, come on, women don't feel loved if they're not beaten." I was astonished. He beats you, therefore, he loves you. It's a Russian saying that comes from the 16th century, from Domostroy household rules, written rules stating how a household should be run.
The man is master of the house.
Everybody else is his servant.
A man should punish his wife to make her more obedient.
Don't beat her on her face because you won't be able to show her in public.
Don't beat her on the stomach if she is pregnant.
It's better to use the whip rather than the stick because it'll be more painful, so she'll learn her lesson better.
After beating her, show how much you love her so she will understand the lesson deeper and appreciate you more.
He beats you, therefore he loves you. Since the 16th century, it has been an excuse.
When I went to university, I met people that suffered kidnappings, torture, disappearing. At that time, I started to participate in university politics. What moved me to make the decision of going from civil society to politics was when I tried to find someone in Congress ready to discuss with me transparency policies, or civic participation, or rule of law measures. I found no one in Argentina. So I said, okay, maybe it's my time.
One idea keeps pushing away the others. Okay, maybe I can help the women of my country. Yes, maybe this is possible. So this is how I am thinking when I learned that my rape is not just an evil plot of the Mastoi, but it was ordered. It was ordered by the tribal elders, the very men who are supposed to deliver justice and protect all women as if we were their daughters. Before my rape, girls were kidnapped off the streets or a man would force sex on a woman. But this time, the entire council decided that I should be gang raped. They call it an honor revenge. Nowhere does the Quran say that Islam supports violence against women. And this is what the Imam says to the congregation on Friday.
The village council has sinned greatly in ordering this violation of Islamic law. The criminals responsible for the rape must be brought to justice. Mukhtar Mai and her family should go to the police and file charges immediately.
I had never heard of the Constitution before, or realized that I was a citizen of Pakistan, and that citizens, even if they are women, have legal rights. In my whole life, I had never talked to a lawyer or a judge or a policeman, but this Mukhtar was not the same Mukhtar who had kneeled before the Mastoi. Now, whatever happens to me, I am going to speak out.
Our story continues next time. I'm Susan Loewenberg, producing director of LA Theatre Works.